Alrighty, welcome everybody to another boot video. This time is probably going to be my first video though that's not on a work boot, but rather it's going to be on a casual boot, and it's going to be another pair of Redwings, the Redwings 8085, which is the Iron Ranger with the copper rough and tough. I just recently picked it up, and this is just going to be an initial impressions. I probably had the boot for about, 3, maybe going on 4 weeks. And so I finally got them broken in. I've been wearing them every day after work and everything like that. And so this is just a casual boot review, or initial impressions. It's not going to be super in depth, but I will keep you track of it. I'll do a 6-month update, a year update, just like I did with my JKs. But just so that way I know a lot of people who are buying the higher end work boots like the JKs, they're getting their first boot with that heritage style construction, the full leather inside. And they're like, man, this is, super comfortable. I love that leather footbed. I love that heritage style feeling. I want something like that for casual that doesn't have my big steel toe. Maybe it's not as tall, something to wear in my regular day-to-day life, right? And well, for me, I could justify spending over $500 on this pair of work boots that's going to last me forever. I can't really justify spending that much money on a pair of casual boots. With most guys, like we work, 40, 50 hours a week minimum, right? So our casual footwear, we're going to wear, a couple hours in the evening. A lot of times I just keep my work boots on and do whatever we're going to do. The only time they're going to get real wear is going to be on the weekends, going out with the wife. So for something you're not using very often, it's hard to justify, especially when you got a family spending so much money. But Redwings can be had a lot more affordably, especially online. In fact, that's where I got mine. And so right now I'm just going to have the video showing on me because the boots are on my feet. And I just want to show a few things about the fit. Because it's my first pair of 6-inch boots. I've never had 6-inch boots before. I've worn steel toe work boots since I was a kid. All my working life, all my adult life. And I've always worn slip-ons that are like 10, 12 inches tall. Or if I had a lace up, it was always an 8-inch. I never had 6-inch. So this is just a few things just to show, how the fit is. So I'll get the camera and I'll bring it in a bit closer here for you to see. So if you see here on the 6-inch boot, unlike the 8-inch, it's cold here, so I'm wearing a pair of long johns. The 8-inch would normally go up here. And on an 8-inch boot, when you bend your ankle, the whole shaft moves, but it stays still up here, and you're just creasing this side area. Now, one thing I learned when I got these is that, one, the Iron Ranger is unique in that it's not a square top design for the laces. As you'll see, and I'll show it better when I take the boots off right here in a minute, that these have a sloped design. Now, what this does, I notice, is it makes it, when you bend in, it makes it very comfortable to bend in. So if you're kneeling, this is very comfortable. However, this, not going all the way up and having laces all the way up to cinch it to your ankle, when you bend it, you have a little bit of a gap. And when you come in, it's really stiff here. And the crease point is right on top of the heel counter, which is a hard, substantial heel counter that's better than like a pair of Thorogoods. And when you bend, though, it kind of drives it up into just in between my ankle and my calf, right into my Achilles. And that actually was quite the sore spot. That's probably the only hot spot I had in the boots when breaking them in. Now, let me get them off real quick for you, and then we can go about the review. So please just bear with me. Just be a minute. One thing I have noticed when unlacing, this is the only pair of boots I've had where I constantly catch the bunny ears of the laces on the speed hooks. And it's two things. One, I've noticed these speed hooks are substantially closer together than they are on my other work boots, like the JKs. And they're substantially larger, which just leads them to being in the way a lot. So let's get a better look at these things. So this is their copper rough and tough leather. So if any of you are familiar with Thorogood's Crazy Horse leather, that kind of distressed, heavily oiled pull-up leather, that's pretty much the same ballpark that you're going to get with the copper rough and tough 10875s. Now I'm going to try to keep this for you quick because we're having a cold front here in Texas, and it's cold, right? So I want my boots back on. But let me tilt it just in a way that's a bit easier for y'all to see. Alrighty. So these are the Iron Rangers in copper rough and tough. Now, a few things about this boot. One is the last. I really was looking forward to getting to try the last on these because these are based off of the Munson last, which is what the Munson last was in World War I. The initial work boots that were going out and getting put on people's feet were very dress shoe-like and very pointed, right? And it crushed a lot of people's toes and it caused lots of issues and injuries and problems. And so Munson basically decided that he was going to design a boot that was more anatomically shaped for the wide ball of your foot and your toes. And that Redwing made a lot of boots for the military and then used that design, modified it over time. And so this is an evolution of that. So you can see it's a really wide toe box. Now for sizing, they only come in D's or double E's. And like you know in my other videos, I'm an 8.5 E. So if I was to drop down my size, it would be 8E, but they don't have an E. So not wanting to crush my toes, I got a double E. And they fit fine. They fit fine. I wear darn tough socks and Redwing's merino wool socks and then some Danish endurance wool socks. So with all of them, they're fairly thick. They're good cushion. I mean, I got them for wearing in steel toe boots and I wear them in these as well. And it feels just about perfect. If I wanted to get it uber perfect, I think if they had an 8E, I would have gone with that and it would have been 100%. The laces are just a little close together, especially at the top. I got skinny ankles, but I don't get any heel slip. I don't have any play in the ball of my foot. And I was really excited to get these because, like I mentioned before, I have a little bit of an issue with the narrow last on these bad boys on my 10877s. You can see the bulge out right here. This is what I was talking about. A lot of the older, even some newer work boot lasts have a narrow toe, which causes you to kind of bulge it out a little uncomfortable. Which is why in my next pair of these, like I mentioned, I want to go with either an 8EE or an 8E instead of this 8.5D that I went with. Now JK, what makes JK so good is that they basically make their own almost Munson last. They take the 55 last that most of these P&W boots are made on with their narrow toe, and they widen it and make it taller. And I knew these fit wonderfully, which is why I wanted to get myself basically a, like how I said, that my 10877s were a sneaker version of my JK forefronts, right? Still heritage style construction, full leather interior, but just lighter weight and more comfortable for casual wear. Well, being that the OT is my favorite work boot, especially comfort wise, you know what I mean? In terms of the design, I basically wanted to get a more comfortable version of this. So I was like, let me get 6-inch wide toe box, full leather construction, right? Heritage style construction, but a little more light duty. And so what that led me to was the Iron Rangers. And, you know, price at their store is like $330. That's a lot of money. So I decided I was going to try to see if I can get a nice used pair online. And I was surfing through Reddit, and I noticed one guy's name was Brock, and he was trying to sell his Iron Rangers 8085s, these copper rough and toughs. Because he had bought, I think, a size too small. These are 8EE. And so he offered them up. He's like, hey, I'll sell them. Whoever wants them, $200. I was like, shoot, for $200, I'll pay for that, right? And I ended up paying like $230 for the shipping, right? And he shipped them to me, no problem. So shout out to Brock. Sorry they didn't fit you. They fit me comfortably. They have the Vibram mini lug sole. It's a little gummy. It's softer than the V100. I have also got to do a video on these, some whites, some white smoke jumpers. The standard V100, hard as shit, dog. They're hard. Whoever tells you that there's not a big difference between them and the Honey's lying. The Honey, these gum soles are substantially softer, right? You can see I could just press my finger in there real easy. And these Vibra Mini Lugs, I don't know if the black and the brown, if there's a difference in the hard or softness, but these brown ones are nice and soft, nice and gummy, perfectly comfortable for me for walking around all day on concrete or on gravel or dirt or some light, walking trails. I've taken these, the main way I broke them in is we like to take the kids and walk some trails after I get out of work. And so we've been doing that as much as possible before this cold front came in. Really trying to break these bad boys in. And it's been great. Leather footbed's comfortable. My only complaints with the boot are minimal. I would, and I don't know if you guys will be able to see it. Let me open it up here. The inside of the boot is lined in the vamp with a canvas liner. It's much more higher quality and heavy duty than the cloth cotton liner in my Thoroughgoods, which like bunches up and is real hot and loose. This sticks to it. Like there's no, as I'm filling in here, any creases in the liner. It's stuck on that vamp like glue. So if you're worried about it, I was, because I prefer the leather. I was worried it was going to be hot. That was my biggest concern, or that I was going to cause some sweat and some smelling. But to be honest, I haven't noticed a difference in this month that I've had the boots compared to any of my other heritage style boots. Now, like I said, this is a pull-up leather. So if you look right here, it's a heavily oil tanned pull-up leather. Now, it's a different kind of pull-up leather than on the 10877s. The 10877s are also a pull-up leather, as you can see. But this is more of like a heavily waxed leather. This has like a sticky, waxy feeling to it, right? A little stiffer temper of a leather. Whereas the leather on these is a lot more floppy. It's noticeably thinner than even my 10877s. And it has more of a dry, semi-oily feeling to it. Like I said, a lot more like the Crazy Horse leather on my Thoroughgoods. So again, if you have like a pair of Thoroughgoods and you're looking to get a pair of casual boots, and you like that Crazy Horse leather, this is gonna be very similar. Quality control on my left boot is perfect. I have zero complaints. Maybe the grain on the vamp is just a little softer of a temper. It's not loose grain like I had that issue with my first pair of JKOTs. It's just probably from like a more belly type area of the hide. But it breaks in fine, it's comfortable. The only issue I've had is, I don't know what it is with the Redwings. It's like I can't get a pair where the stitches are perfect. But whatever, right? The stitching on here is a little funky, and the boots lasted slightly crooked. So when I lace it up, instead, you see that? How this part is bulging forward and that kind of pushes down on here. Now they're broken in, but when I was first breaking them in, that was causing a lot of hot spot right there on the top of my toes. It's not a problem anymore, but it also just makes it kind of crease funky if you want to really crank the boot laces down tight, which I do when I'm breaking them in to speed up break-in, right? So crooked lasting, some questionable stitching, but it's not crooked. There's some crooked lasted boots that it's so bad they're unwearable. After probably the first week, it broke in. They're perfectly comfortable. It's no issue. When the boots are on my feet, you don't really notice it. So it's not something that I'm going to complain to the guy I bought them from over. I mean, I got them for $200 plus shipping, right? And they're perfectly fine, perfectly good boots. There's no midsole in these. And I see online a lot of people talk about using the Iron Rangers for work boots. There's a big debate about whether the heritage style Redwings can be used as work boots. After feeling the thickness, the tempering of the leather, and the soles that both these boots come in, I definitely say if you're working a job that doesn't require steel toe
or something where you're climbing lots of ladders and stomping lots of shovels, I definitely say 10877 is a great work boot. If you could work in Thoroughgoods and Carolinas, you can work in a 10877. But man, I mean, these, I personally, without a midsole, wouldn't consider using these as work boots for a few reasons. One, the leather, it feels like, if that's 2.5, this is 2. Like, this feels even thinner than my Thoroughgoods on all quarters. There's not, like, sometimes, like on my Thoroughgoods, like some feel loose and there's like 1 quarter that feels awfully thick. All of these feel the same, which is good for quality control and keeping things consistent. But it's not the thickness of a leather that I would want in a work boot. It does have triple stitching and a true toe cap, so it got that going for it. But man, as tough as that toe is, and it's nice for just kicking things here and there, I don't think it'd give you very much protection if there was any risk of stuff falling on your toe. And the big thing is this lack of a midsole. So with this lack of a midsole, I would feel even less comfortable kicking on shovels all day or standing on ladders in this than I would in the thick wedge sole. Because the thick wedge sole is so thick, it almost gives you a midsole-like feeling, right? If you wanted to use these as a work boot where you didn't require a steel toe, I see a lot of people online resole them and add a midsole. I think if you did that and you weren't worried about abrasion on these parts of the leather, then I think you'd be okay. Because the toe cap, which is the most common area where your boots get worn through, is a true toe cap. And if you're not doing lots of stuff where maybe if you're not welding and doing lots of grinding and other stuff that's going to be putting lots of abrasion on the upper, you'll probably be all right. But me personally, walking around on like the terrain I walk on and doing the things I do, I wouldn't use the Iron Rangers as a work boot. Whereas I would, and I do at times, use the 10877s. So that's just my personal opinion on that. Everyone, you all know your own jobs and what you need for them. So if it works for you, I'm not saying, I'm not poo-pooing you for that or saying you're wrong. I'm just saying for what I do and in my opinion with my experience with boots, I wouldn't use these without modification. Like I said, if I added a midsole, I'd consider it, but not without. But that's it on the initial impression of the boots. Extremely comfortable. My favorite thing about them is this number 8 last that Redwing has. It's an extremely comfortable, anatomically shaped last. My space from the edge is probably like 1/4 to 1/2 inch, right? It's perfect, so just go down a half size. If you're a D width, grab the D. If you're an E width like me, it depends on what kind of E you are, right? So I would try the D and double E, right? If the D feels a little tight, I would just get the E, right? And if your laces are a little close together, you could throw in a pair of kilties, and that will help spread them out a little. I put kilties in when I first broke these in the first few weeks, because one thing I noticed is these speed hooks are known for tearing up the tongue. And so I put kilties in, and so they tore up the kiltie. But I've noticed some people file them down. I noticed if you let it burnishes itself on the leather. And it tore it up to like a certain level and then stopped. And then the leather started to smooth out. These started to smooth out. And then I was able to take them out. And as you can see, while there's creasing, there's no heavy scratches or gouges or holes in the tongues like you see at times with other people's boots. A quick break-in tip. I was watching Tech from Bootlosophy, his review of these boots, and he was talking about how he put that like handle of a hammer in and like bent this part like 1,000,000 times and scrunched these up. And honestly, at the time, I was like, what kind of stupid crap is that? Just wear your boots, dog, right? But man, after I legit like made my Achilles sore pretty bad on my first day wearing these. I wore them for like 4 or 5 hours, and just having this press in, I just started doing this to it and creasing it and just bending it when I was just sitting at my computer. That made the break-in much easier. So Tech or Teak, Bootlosophy, I apologize, brother. I doubted you. That was genius. It helped out with breaking a lot. For me, this was this and kind of the pressure right here from the crooked lasting. Those were the only hot spots from break-in. Neither of them even gave a blister. And after like the first week of wearing them like 3 or 4 times for a couple hours at a time, that was it. They're fine. I could wear these all day now. So really comfortable boots. You know, sizing isn't as hard as people make it seem. Don't jump down a full size, dog. You're probably gonna crush your feet. Just jump down a half size. Get a width that's comfortable for you with the socks that you plan to wear them with, right? The thin, if you do need a little more cushion, the concrete's too hard for you. I have these right here. These are Specco insoles. They're uber thin, but they provide a surprisingly large amount of cushion. So let's say, like I said, you can take the E or maybe the double E's just a little loose. If you know you're going to be walking on concrete all day, you're coming from a tennis shoe background or a wedge sole background where you're used to that cushion, just throw these little babies in there and it's going to be a lot more comfortable. You're going to get great cushion from them. Or if you just need to fill out a little bit of space in a boot, these, in my opinion, are the best way to do it. You can get them on Amazon for like 10 bucks. I got 2 pairs of these free with the JK boots that I bought. So that's that. That's my initial impressions on the boot. Fantastic boot. You can find them all freaking day on eBay with little to no wear, or even just new old stock and stuff for sale for between like 200 and 250 bucks. You can find them on Reddit, on the Goodyear Welt thread, or Goodyear Welt subreddit, and Redwing subreddits. People selling them all the time. Like I said, that's where I got mine. So if you want a good casual heritage boot, kind of wear in any occasion. I wore them to the congregation in a pair of khakis and a button up, and they look good. Which is probably the most formal you can get to them in. I wear them all day with jeans and a t-shirt or a button up flannel, and they look good. Right, so great casual boot, would highly recommend it, and look forward to getting back to you guys with a 6-month update. One last thing, I don't plan to condition them. They're not conditioned in any way, and I probably won't for at least the first year. Just like the 10877s, these are chock full of oils from the factory, so there's no need to condition these new, unless you're just really struggling with break-in, like you've only worn Converse and Vans your whole life, and you need to soften them up. Maybe get some Big 4, but nah, these are plenty oily from the factory. So that's it for the initial impressions. Hope you all enjoyed it. Have a good day.